tried to get it registered, and I tried to tell them it was a sport utility vehicle, because that's what I looked at it as. And sure enough, they went back through the archives, and no, it's a station wagon. It didn't even occur to me. Yeah. This is like a forerunner of the multi-row seat SUV.
Right, right. It's like owning a giant dog.
And the appeal to me was that big, lumbering, easy to work on. Because I'm going back a few years to my high school auto shop days.
Right.
You know, so basic that you really have to relearn all that stuff too.
Right. Welcome to the episode of Jay Leno's Garage. The vehicle we're featuring today, if you're tired of Italian supercars, well, this is the exact opposite. This is a 1966 Dodge Town Wagon Power Wagon. This looks like it could have been built any time from 1941 to 1966, which was actually the last year. You know, four-wheel drive. This is when four-wheel drive really was to go off-road. I mean, so many vehicles now are all-wheel drive too, or four-wheel drive. But this V8 engine, 318, I came about this in an odd way. A woman called me. It had been sort of rusting out in her backyard, and could I find a good home for it? And one of the guys that works with us, Steve Hoffman, he's been here since the beginning. You know, we transport cars and stuff. He's got a flatbed. And he always wanted one of these, so I called him and told him about it. He went and picked it up in Colorado. It has some California history. Let's bring Steve in and find out what this is all about. Steve Hoffman, come on in, Steve. Good to see you, my friend.
Hi, Jay.
You know, if you ever wonder how the cars get to the location, Steve is the guy that does it for us. So tell us, first of all, why the interest in these?
You know, I've always liked the Dodge Power Wagons just because they're big, meaty, you know, military-esque things, and I had a flat-fendered Power Wagon at the time, and when another one comes along, well, you just don't say no, do you?
You don't say no.
You just adopt them.
Now, what year was the flat-fendered one?
The flat-fender is 1950.
Okay.
And actually still sitting, awaiting restoration.
Really?
Because I can only do...
When you say flat fender, what are you referring to?
That's the older body-style pickup with flat fenders, more military style to accommodate the bigger chassis and the four-wheel drive.
Okay. Now, what chassis is this? Is this a truck? This is a truck chassis,
This is a pickup truck chassis.
Right, okay.
From a later series called Swept Line, started in the early 60s. The body itself is a carryover from the late 50s, what they called Power Giant series truck.
Right. And these top speeds about what, 60 miles an hour?
I think that's downhill in a hurricane.
That's being generous. Yeah,
yes.
Yeah. And of course, V8 eats gas, but it's really meant for off-road. These are popular with Yellowstone, you know, park rangers, that kind of stuff. Real utility vehicles meant to work hard in an off-road environment. I mean, it doesn't lower on its suspension like modern vehicles. It's all, for lack of a better word, this is what in the old days it would have called a manly vehicle, you know. That kind of
very much a tractor with a station wagon body.
Right, exactly. I guess the American Eagle, remember the Rambler Eagle? That was the first sort of real four-door car that did this function. And this is like almost a truck's version of that. And this is all steel, obviously.
A lot of steel.
It does look like something that was built in the 40s. When you first got it, I said, really, that's 1966, but that's it, no more after this.
This was the very tail end of production. They were selling a couple of hundred a year to real specific industries, oil, gas exploration, railroads, things like that, because they were too utilitarian compared to the competition, which was the Jeep Wagoneer and an International Travelall.
Yeah.
Much nicer vehicle, much more modern. And I think 67, there were some regulations coming into play that were going to end this.
I think I remember seeing one of these outfitted with railroad wheels on the tracks. They would go up and down the tracks and search for breaks in the track or whatever it might be, you know.
Dodge was always the government low bidder. So you saw a lot of these in ambulance service, forest service, that sort of thing in their heyday. But by 66, the justification for keeping them on the production line was pretty slim.
Well, let's open the hood and see what it looks like inside here. Okay, look, that engine's way down there. You really need a stepladder to work on this thing, don't you?
It's true.
Okay, but that's the 318. Now, is that the same 318 that was in every Dodge as the basic V8, or is it a truck version?
You know, it is a truck version, and it's what they call a poly V8, polyspherical head. It was a 50s kind of low-cost answer to the Hemi.
Right.
And it saw some life in Plymouth vehicles and some of the sedans, but really this was the production V8 the no frills V8.
Right.
A lot of these came as slant sixes though.
Yeah.
The V8 was an option.
Yeah, it's odd to find with a V8. I remember them always being sixes. And this is 200 horsepower. Is that a 2-barrel on there? Yeah,
yes.
Two-barrel carburetor. So I suppose you could put a bigger carburetor on. You've restored it completely stock, correct?
Yeah, you know, I'm weird that way. I like the stock, basic look. My youth was filled with Jeeps and kind of basic utilitarian vehicles.
Right.
So that's, a lot of them are modified just because a little more get up and go.
And that's a massive alternator on there. And you almost wonder why, I mean, all it's running is headlights. I mean, there's no reason really for a big alternator like this. Is there another drive that it would?
No, it was just, I guess, more power is better in a utilitarian kind of state. If you're in the snow and you're working the truck and the headlights are on and your rotary beacon is on the top.
Right. Yeah, I guess that's true.
You know, they used it for just about everything, and probably for accessories as well.
Now, what kind of shape was it in when you got it? Because it's pretty rough, I remember.
It was pretty rough, and it had some custom add-ons. The guy who bought it was a scientist up at JPL, a real rocket scientist.
One owner?
One owner.
Yeah.
And his family knew this thing as Super Truck,
right?
Big Green Monster. And the daughter is who I'm still in contact with regarding the truck. But he bought it. Not too many regular non-commercial sales for stuff like this. But he bought the truck, and I'm sure he used it well. It was a familiar sight up at JPL.
How many miles on it when you got it? You know?
About 42,000.
Oh, that's all?
Yeah, but that's all. That's millions of miles when it 30 years on.
Right,
right. And it was in pretty sad shape. I picked it up in Colorado and brought it back here, but there was, like anything that's been sitting for a long time.
Well, the fun thing is, it was given to me, and then I gave it to Steve, and it was all done on the proviso that it would be restored. You know, the lady was very kind. It didn't run. She could have sold it, but she wanted it to be fixed up, just like when her husband had it. And you've done a great job, Steve. It really looks terrific. I think he would be very proud of it. And she'll probably see it today for the first time, right?
Yeah. I let her know that it's almost there, done.
Yeah.
And we'll be sending her a copy of this, I'm sure.
Is there still stuff to do on this? Is this
little things, you know, door seals and really minor stuff.
Right.
The bulk of it's done. A lot of sweat equity in this one.
Many dents and dings?
You know, there were, and thank God it's the kind of steel that they made stuff out of in the day.
Right.
It takes repairs much better than some of the flimsy stuff.
Sure.
The downside is such a rare bird that parts are a monumental task.
Now, what are unique parts to this? I mean, that's a Dodge truck V8. It's a radiator.
Dodge truck chassis, basically. Right. This particular truck has wider fenders off of like a 500 series medium duty truck to accommodate the four-wheel drive. The body, like I said, was just a carryover. They sold as many as they could make, and that was about it. There wasn't none of the dealers kept one on the lot.
Yeah.
It was just that kind of vehicle. And so some parts from the 50s, if you can find them, if you can find a crossover, some stuff you have to make. I found a guy who makes an interior kit. Unbelievably, nobody has even has patterns, and he has a kit.
Yeah, there's always those guys out
there's
there.
one or two guys that just know these things, and thank God for the internet. I mean, it's a lot different than it was 25 years ago trying to find these guys.
You mentioned that about parts from the 50s. when I was restoring my 55 Buick, we had it all apart and all the parts laid out. And some GM guys came through and looked at it and go, oh, we're still using that bracket. I mean, it amortized the cost down to what, like 4 cents to make it now, because they've been making it since 1955, and they were still using that bracket, and it just made me laugh. And that actually, that's clutch, right? And that's a single master cylinder?
Single master cylinder.
You ever worry about that?
I do. I get a little nervous.
Yeah.
It's, you know, I'm used to the dual master, and
well, you're never really going fast enough. That,
true.
You know, so.
But there's a lot of momentum too.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But hey, it worked fine for 50 years. And you rebuilt the engine as stock.
Yep. I figure if it isn't broken,
right.
Don't
and it
fix
runs on regular fuel.
Regular fuel. I don't have to worry too much about that.
Yeah. Okay.
Again, nothing too exotic here.
Right. And these are the old-fashioned locking and unlocking hubs. You had to get out and do it.
Right. You have to manually turn the locking hubs on.
Right.
And then it'll actually engage the front axle.
And what kind of gas mileage you get with this?
I haven't driven it far enough to know, and it's probably better that I don't, especially with $6.15 gas.
I know. I just wonder what the difference is between having the hubs engaged and not engaged.
There's plenty of drag on it. Yeah, it does make a difference.
Yeah, and it's not the most aerodynamic vehicle either.
No, it's not.
I mean, I'm 6 feet tall, and look at this. It's hilarious. It's hilarious how big this thing is.
You have to get a running start to jump up into it,
but it's the best named Power Wagon. It's just,
it's all it is. It's a tractor. Yeah.
And I guess a lot of them had a winch in the front.
Sure.
Too. That was all kinds. That would explain the alternator, sure.
Right. The winch would be run by probably a power takeoff.
Right.
Off of the transmission.
Very cool. Okay. Well, let's close this up again. There you go. They got to give that extra.
A little clunk to know that it's closed.
And of course, was it hard to find this original paint?
You know, we had to color match it because there's 8 different versions of it in different books, and over time the paint samples do discolor. So yeah, it was.
Was it available in a number of colors or just this?
About 6 colors.
Right. Okay. All right. Let's see. Let's go around the back, and then we'll come up to the interior. It's a long walk back here. Let's open her up. Okay, there you go. Everything pretty simple here. Nothing.
Right.
Yeah.
You'd think it'd be easy to work on, but inevitably, frozen bolts and just every single thing.
Well, sitting outside in Colorado.
Yeah.
So, and we got 3 rows here. Yeah. Okay. And I guess that seat comes out. So
the seats come out to make it more van-like.
Right.
Those are another impossible to find item because when they got handed down to the next and the kids and they took the seats out and threw them in the garage and never to be seen again.
Well, I noticed you got wing nuts on it, so they're
factory.
Real easy to get out. Yeah. Cool. And I guess you could camp in this thing too, couldn't you? Took out the seats. Yes. You could sleep in it and do the whole deal. Okay, very cool. And this one's got to close first.
Yep.
Oh, it's pretty light actually.
You can see why they used them for ambulances.
No, do I need to lock?
Nope, it's all good.
Okay.
That's locked
and what does this weigh? Any idea?
It's about 7,500 pounds.
Oh, it is?
Yeah, it's very heavy.
And that's all chassis, isn't it?
Chassis and body.
Yeah.
Just the bumpers.
Those doors are not that heavy, but yeah. And that's the way it was with the white trim, no chrome.
Very basic.
It almost looks like early 50s blackout Korea, when they...
Yeah, true enough.
Yeah.
The early ones, the fancier ones that they tried to sell to the public, some had wheel covers or hubcaps.
Right.
But by '66, it was just turn and earn. Just put them out there.
Turn and earn.
Put them to work.
Now let's take a look at the interior. All right, you open up that side. Now it's interesting. The dashboard almost looks like a home-style hot rod dashboard. Speedometer, in the middle of a piece of wood with some gauges around it.
Just the basics.
Yeah, just the basic. But at least you got gauges, not idiot lights, so that's kind of cool.
Yep.
You got your emergency brake right there. And it's a 4-speed?
Yes, it's a 4-speed.
Yeah.
But granny low
right.
from climbing mountains.
So around town, you just pull away in second.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah, okay. Any overdrive?
No.
No, okay.
I guess the theory is you're never going faster than about 35 anyway.
Yeah, yeah. And that's those two levers there. That's your what to engage?
That's the transfer case for the front-wheel drive, four-wheel drive.
Okay.
Front-wheel drive.
So you get out, you unlock it, and then you throw those.
Right. It's a neutral, high and low.
Right. Okay.
And engage and disengage.
Gotcha. Okay. I mean, it's funny. I mean, you look at the dashboard, you can see, well, the radio should go right there, but no.
And a lot of them that you see, even today, have big holes cut in the dash because, you know, that was a 70s thing. Put a radio in it.
Right.
But yeah, the real rare bird is the roof-mounted Philco radio with the internal antenna.
And this has to be the last year for a single master cylinder.
Yeah, it has to be.
Yeah, because I think passenger cars had to have it in '66, and I guess trucks got a pass for a few years.
Probably, they tend to do that.
And it's a standard Dodge truck steering wheel.
Yep.
I love the big shifter. It looks like that one they used to have on the, you know, the big Hemi with the pistol grip. Almost the same shift lever. Hilarious. But boy, new boot rubber, everything. It looks good.
Yeah, some custom work.
Yeah, yeah.
Another impossible to find thing is the shift boot.
Yeah.
So you do what you can and try to keep it original.
And you've got a bit of a headliner and then just roof on this. It must be like a drum to drive, isn't it?
It's very tinny. And I put sound deadening in it, hoping to allay some of that, but it is what it is. It's a big oil can.
Well, let's hop in and take it for a ride. I like how far you have to.
Yeah, you have to really, it's an effort to get in.
You have to get in this thing. There we go. Here we are. No power steering, obviously.
Nope.
Actually steers pretty nicely. It's not heavy at all.
Drum brakes all the way around?
Yes, sir. Yeah. Gigantic drum brakes.
Yeah.
They used a lot of the 3/4 ton parts on this thing, even though it's rated at a 1/2 ton. So it's got the big axles and the whole thing.
Cold-blooded.
It definitely needs a run. Maybe next weekend, Malibu. It might be a little ambitious.
Might cost you about $1,500 in gas.
Yeah. I should start tomorrow.
I know, yeah.
Worked all weekend putting in the steering gear and getting it kind of straightened up. Didn't have a chance to go and run the hell out of it beforehand. So, yeah, I love this thing. I always go to the car shows and I walk right by the Mustangs and the Camaros, and I always go to the back where they keep all the big trucks and the weird oddball stuff.
Yeah.
That's always been my thing. You know, they put the ambulances back there, and, you know, all the weird shit.
When's the last time you changed those plugs?
Probably 3 months ago.
Yeah,
but it sits. That's the death knell for these things, is just sitting around. Plus the gas today is so awful. I have a few more things to do. Got to get somebody to finish off that steering wheel. I've made great progress with all the cracks, but
steering wheel looks good.
It needs to be dipped and all the, you know, to be done right.
Is that a hard wheel to find?
It's impossible to find.
Yeah.
And this is an original wheel, so all the cracks I'm trying to fill them in and, you know, make it presentable.
Is there a bigger wheel than another Dodge truck? Okay.
It's a truck wheel, is what it is.
Yeah. All right, she's warming up now.
Yeah, much better.
I always say this, but you realize this is halfway in the development of the automobile or the truck. You know, you're just about the halfway point to now. If you figure 1910 is when things really started moving, you know.
And you look at this and you go, my God, we've come a long way. But you realize they've come a long way in '66, you know.
Yeah.
My brother wanted desperately to get a '67 Mustang. Had to have a '67 Mustang. I said, boy, you better think about driving one of those around town before.
Why '67?
I don't know. You just something.
To me, that first generation's iconic Mustang.
Right.
67, it was just change for the sake of change.
A little bit of body change, yeah. So he had to have it, and I said, you know, it's not going to drive like your car. It's just not. It's not even going to be close.
Yeah.
Because you got this image in your head of, oh, it's going to be a fantastic muscle car. I'm going to...
Well, you know, one of my favorite things on this show, Tim Allen and I, we showed up with a 66, or maybe 67 GTO.
Right.
Tri-power, all thing, versus a four-door Altima V6 sedan. And it blew the doors off it.
Yes. Yeah. I know. I admire the Hemi and the whole thing. I love that muscle car era. But boy, compared to a modern car just driving around, the only thing that hasn't kept up, in my opinion, is the style.
Yeah.
I like the old cars because you could tell them apart. They were distinctive. Right. Now everything looks the same, and you know, everybody just benchmarks a BMW or whatever.
Yeah.
And you get a Korean-built clone of a BMW.
Did you strip this motor down or just clean it up?
We stripped it down.
Yeah.
I had George look at it, and it's running better than it was.
Here we go. Now she's running.
Downhill.
And that's right. It is a two-door. I know it's a two-door, but you think it's going to be a four-door vehicle. I guess this is a sport model, the two-door.
I tried to get it registered, and I tried to tell them it was a sport utility vehicle, because that's what I looked at it as. And sure enough, they went back through the archives, and no, it's a station wagon.
Oh, this is a station wagon?
This is considered a station wagon because it's a people mover and two doors.
Now, does that help you or hurt you with the DMV?
It doesn't really hurt. It's such an old classification, station wagon.
Yeah.
I mean, it didn't even occur to me. Yeah. This is like a forerunner of the multi-row seat SUV.
Right, right. Well, this is an era when it was a truck, not meant to have any pretense for luxury. You know?
No. I mean, if you ordered one of these, you were just moving bodies to the job site or picking up your hotel guests for your mountain lodge at the airport or the train station.
And we've talked about this on this show before, but there was an era when the luxury truck, what happened was in the 80s, it was a 5% luxury tax on any vehicle that cost more than $30,000, because that was going to be considered a luxury vehicle.
That's right.
But there was no luxury tax on trucks. So they thought, why don't we take that 5% and make a luxury truck? Put a truck with leather seats and radio and air conditioning and all the things you'd have. I think the Lincoln Blackwood was one of the first ones. And the idea of people thought, hey, why not, instead of having two vehicles, a car and a truck, why not get a luxury truck? And that's what happened. It's all because of legislation.
And not everybody was going to drive their regular vehicle to a job site. You know, now, and even this as a station wagon was an oddball. They sold a lot more panel vans and even more, panel vans and even less of these things as four-wheel drive. If you sold them, you sold it as a station wagon, as opposed to four-wheel drive. And you can see how small a market it was, especially against competitors like the Jeep Wagoneer, about 66. The nicer versions of this kind of a truck were coming into play. Jeep Wagoneer, you got International Travelall. Much more family functional car-like than this beast.
Well, you certainly get a good greenhouse.
Yeah.
Got good visibility.
And I like that about the 50s stuff, the wraparound windshield. You really, again, the style from that time period, really classic, because it was more about the visibility than the aerodynamics. Gas is 17 cents a gallon. You don't get too worried about it.
Well, you do when you're making 75 cents an hour.
True enough.
So, it's all relative.
It's a matter of perspective, I guess. I was just a kid when all the gas pumps had to be changed out because nobody ever conceived of them having to have a dollar digit in the price of gas.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't that long ago when they had the first increases, like 20 or 30 years ago, with a credit card, you couldn't put more than $50 worth of gas in a car.
No.
So it would shut off, you know. See what kind of turning radius. That's not bad.
No.
No, that's pretty good. I like how the wheel just...
It's a floater.
Got a cop eyeballing it.
Yep. Glad my registration's up. As much as I like the old stuff, boy, the internet sure helped me with this restoration.
Oh, yeah.
Unbelievable, the resources you can find.
I know.
Where you just used to rely on, you know, that knowledge base that was out there at your local garage.
Right.
Now you can find the subject expert on anything.
Yeah. When I got my Miura back in the 80s, you had to write a letter in Italian to the factory, hope that somebody would read it, and then there was no phone. There were no Lamborghini parts, you know?
Yeah, now what would you do before the aftermarket even existed, you know, like anything?
Well, now you got, you know, Google Translator and all of that, but I remember once I was trying to get Sophia Loren on the show and had to write a letter in Italian, you know. I'm sitting with the dictionary. Thank you. I got that, you know.
Yeah, I get a lot of help, and what a resource. And there's forum pages, and there's 8 different Facebook groups for every single vehicle.
It's gonna get a little noisy on a cross-country trip.
The family trip to Disney World, not happening.
No.
Not in this.
Yeah. It's like owning a giant dog, you know, those big giant dogs.
And the appeal to me was that big, lumbering, easy to work on. So, because I'm going back a few years to my high school auto shop days.
Right.
You know, so basic that you really have to relearn all that stuff too.
Right. Well, thanks for keeping it stock. A lot of guys that just drop a Hellcat motor in it or something, you know.
You know, I do that in my head, fantasy-wise, but the reality is I do like the original stuff.
Yeah.
It just because for me it's as much about the history as anything else.
Yeah.
And it breaks my heart to see people cut up fenders and
I know.
jack things up, and I don't know.
Transmission is very nice. Clutch is very nice.
While I had this thing frame off and everything, I had them go through everything. Now we're just down to the details. You know? Thankfully. It seemed endless. Even a simple truck like this, unbelievable how many parts come out of it.
Well, Steve, I want to thank you. I mean, it's still a work in progress. Got a couple little things here to fix up, but you know, it's a lot of fun. Yeah, I just like anything different than the norm. And it's so high, it's so big, and it's so, well, it's a unique vehicle. I mean, these were sort of common when we were kids, but it's just the type of vehicle you don't see anymore. Because it's built for one specific purpose, and that's it. So thank you very much. Thanks for saving this piece of history. I appreciate it. All right. Now we just afford to fill it with gas. Oh, my God.
Mm-hmm.